It's a dirty word, isn't it? Packing. Ooh. And is our translator ready? All right, wonderful. So we have translation. Hopefully nobody online needs translation unless they have a personal translator next to them, whispering in their ear. So welcome everyone. Let me start my recorder. And this is also being videotaped for future use. Thank you to our AV squad that does all the camera work and recordings and microphones and all that. I don't know if they get enough recognition, so let's recognize them. So this is a workshop on compassionate detachment, which sounds like a Buddhist term, which it is, but I'm not Buddhist. We're not going to get into deep, heavy Buddhism in this workshop, although there'll be some overlap between Buddhism and what I'm doing. So today is what is today? The 21st of September, the first full day of the fall equinox. There was a new moon partial eclipse last night. Probably couldn't see it from this part of Europe. I think it was visible in partiality in South Africa and maybe South America. I'm not sure exactly where it was visible. But you could still feel the effects of the eclipse. And then to have it coincide like 12 hours apart from the fall equinox. I think the fall equinox began 12 hours after the moon, or the moon began 12 hours after the fall equinox. I didn't check to see which one happened first. It doesn't matter. The energy lasts 2 or 3 days before and 2 or 3 days after the equinox. And the new moon energy starts about 1 day before and goes till about 1 day after. So let's see, the new moon, is it Libra and Virgo, or what's the cusp there? My astrology knowledge isn't that great. I think it's Libra and Virgo, but I'm not sure on the cusp, the new moon on the cusp. So that would be earth energy and air energy, and here we have water energy because we're near the sea, and we have fire energy, which is our beloved Sunca, as you would say in Slavic language. So Luna and Sunca are having a dance. So again, welcome everybody. I'm kind of stalling for time because people are still coming in, and so I'm known for starting on time, and so I'm adapting to starting a little late, so I apologize if any of you said, oh, I wanted it to start exactly on the top of the hour, Okay. So, compassionate detachment is a big topic. The subtitle of this presentation would be how to be in the world but not of the world. And specifically with personal relationships, family relationships, business relationships. So relationships is kind of like the sub-focus of the topic. So it's not just about like transcending the matrix, although that's part of it. That's another whole workshop I do, transcending the matrix. And another one that's also related, how to achieve neutrality. So these are closely related topics which I've done workshops on in various places. Compassionate detachment involves how to be deeply and intimately involved in what's happening with humanity, and at the same time recognize that who we are is beyond what's happening with humanity. And of course I'm going to bring up words like suffering and pain and resistance and abandonment and a lot of these psychological ooey gooey words. So because we're going to apply this information to those feelings, those states of consciousness, guilt, shame. You can go. I can go down a long list of the, shall we say, negatives, which we all are aware of on planet Earth, and we might touch on why there's so much negativity on planet Earth. In fact, we will touch on that because we can't avoid going into that question to some degree, because it's the big question. Why is there so much suffering on Earth? And of course, there's intermediate causes. Most of us know the intermediate causes. Oh, well, it's the banking system, it's the so-called power elite, the dark cabal, dark extraterrestrials trying to enslave humanity. It's, the realms of duality, the dualistic, illusory lower dimensions that are magnetic in nature and suck our souls into drama and trauma. So there's a lot of intermediate causes, but these aren't the root causes. So we may talk a little bit about the root cause of suffering. There's an ultra short version, but it doesn't satisfy. And that is the belief in separation from God. That's the ultimate short answer to the question, why is there so much suffering on Earth? The belief in separation from God. But see, that's kind of abstract, that's kind of intellectual, it's not really getting into the deep inner feelings. So, part of these workshops involves my spirit guides, the founders. Some of you experienced the founders yesterday. And I will be asking the founders to speak for the first part of the workshop, and then we'll have a break, and after the break we'll have a meditation. So we're going to kind of go through a little bit of psychology, a little bit of metaphysics, a lot of spirituality in our approach to this topic, because it's a big topic right now, and I know a lot of you are wanting to make a difference in the world. But at the same time, you don't want to get caught in the drama. Maybe you haven't watched The Big Black Box in many years. Maybe it's all you can do to not overdo it with the medium-sized black box. We have one right here. And then, of course, we have the little black box, or black mirror, as it's sometimes called. These are the mirrors that seem to control our lives unless we live in a cave in the Himalayan mountains, or we're deep in the forest in a log cabin with no electricity. But for the rest of us, the little black mirror, the medium black mirror, the computer, and the big black mirror, which we have something similar up here, but it's not it could be modified to become a television, but television. Isn't that an interesting word? Television. Unfortunately, most of the visions it tells are probably not worth looking at. I know I'm among like-minded people here, because I think you think of mainstream television, you think of fear, fear, fear. The purveyors of fear, fine purveyors of fine fear. So that's the television. So, let's take a few deep breaths now that we're all pretty much here. Who's going to be here is here. And maybe a few people still wander in. So let's take a few deep breaths to center ourselves. Welcome to our online people that I prearranged with to come in for this event. And they're mostly from this part of the world. But they couldn't make it here for various reasons in person, so hopefully my face is not too bleached from the sun, so you can see me clearly if you're online. I think I'll move this a little bit, see if we can get my appearance a little bit better. The sun is coming and going behind the tree there, and every time it shines directly on my face, it's a little hard to see me, so I apologize for that. Okay, let's start with some deep breathing. And we're going to contemplate the question, how do I experience compassionate detachment? And we're going to explore each of those words, which hopefully have good translation into Croatian. I think they do. They're pretty specific words. I think the translation is pretty accurate. So compassion, that one needs no introduction. It means having a deep love and caring for our fellow human beings. Pretty clear definition. It's like unconditional love. Everybody knows what unconditional love means. Love without conditions. And compassion is like that. Calm is with, and passion is life force energy. So with life force energy would be another way to define compassion, that you have an enthusiasm for life, specifically those who are suffering in the world and who are calling out for help, as a specific subset of compassion. Detachment, the opposite of attachment, D means opposite, or the negative of, or the counterpart, the anti part. So detachment and attachment, of course, means that you're deeply involved emotionally. You're emotionally involved to the point of it being a problem. The Buddhist said attachment was the cause of all pain. I'm not sure I agree 100% with that, maybe 98%. It's pretty darn close to the truth. Attachment causes pain. Resistance also causes pain. That's the other 2% where I have to qualify it a little bit. That if you're resisting life, you're in pain. It's that simple. If you're emotionally attached to things being a certain way in life, then you may not be in pain all the time, but when things don't go your way, wah. So attachment causes pain, and detachment means that you still care, you're still compassionate, you're still engaged with life, you're still vital with life. But you're not identified with the suffering, with the pain, with the resistance, with the violence, with the abuse, with the addiction, with the war, with the poverty, or whatever the particular condition is. You're not identified with it. You are caring deeply about people that are experiencing these things, and you feel their pain, you feel their suffering. But you're not identified with the suffering. Who you are is beyond the suffering. Who they are is beyond the suffering. The suffering is part of the samskaras, the duality, the maya, the lila, whatever you want to call it, the lower realms. It's inherent within the lower realms. And you acknowledge that it's easy to get sucked into the drama and trauma. But who you are is a powerful, creative, spiritual being beyond time and space, beyond the suffering, beyond the pain, beyond the resistance, beyond the poverty, beyond the war. That's who we are. And so we're acknowledging who we are and acknowledging that we're having an experience of pain and suffering. So it's a huge difference from modern psychology, which gets caught in the details. We're bogged down in the details of suffering. So, I'm going to turn this over to my spirit guides, the founders. And most of you are familiar with the founders. I introduced them yesterday. But if there's 2 or 3 of you maybe that weren't here yesterday that have never experienced the founders, they are beings from the 12th dimension. They were involved in the engineering of the human DNA millions of years ago. As I mentioned in my book, The Real History of the Earth, human beings' DNA was created by the Pleiadians about 100 million years ago, Homo sapiens, and has been tampered with by various extraterrestrial races ever since. In one of my books, I state there's 23 different extraterrestrial races that have interbred with humanity or interacted directly with humanity and influenced human evolution. So yeah, it feels like we're lab rats. Sorry about that. But we're way more than lab rats. We're beyond all of that too at the same time. So that's a whole nother area which deserves a workshop on its own. How to be a lab rat and a free spirit at the same time. That's probably an all-day workshop. So that's a topic for a new workshop that I haven't done. Okay. So let's bring in the founders. It's conscious channeling. It's a collaboration between myself, my higher self, and beings from what I call level 12, also known as creator gods. They have other channels that they work with besides myself, and they're often called creator gods by some of the channels. Some of them are called beings from the great central sun, although there are other beings from the great central sun, not just the founders. So those are some of the names they may go by with different channels. I'll be probably rocking my body a little bit, except I want to stay close to the mic, so I'm going to restrict the movement a little bit. And my eyes will be closed most of the time, but sometimes I'll open them. And if you need to get up and use the facilities in the middle of the channeling, feel free to do so quietly. I ask you not to get up during the meditation, which will be happening in about an hour and a half or so. So, let's begin. Let's make sure everything's working. Everything's working. All right. Greetings, dear creators. We are the founders. It is our pleasure and privilege to be with you once again on another beautiful day here in the Croatian Adriatic coast. And the sea is such a deep color of blue here. You don't need one of those airbrushed postcards, if you still have such a thing on your world. Now everything's on the telephone, but you used to have these things called postcards. They were little pieces of paper with photographs on them, and they were airbrushed to make it look nicer than it is in order to get tourists to visit your town or your seacoast or whatever. You don't need those anymore because you have such a beautiful color of blue in your sea here right now at this time of the year. So, we're not here to talk about the sea or the weather. We're here to go deep into the subject which the channel introduced, which is compassionate detachment. And we're going to be, because we are what you would call big picture beings, by definition, we have a big picture. It doesn't make us any better than you. In fact, we're equal to you. You are no better than us, and you are no worse than us. That is the truth. We are equals. We have a little bit bigger picture of reality, perhaps, than you do, and that can be useful as a teaching device to help you rise above the heavy, thick fog of illusion that seems to surround the earth. And we're going to use metaphors like fog. You know, the sun is always shining, and if it's a foggy day and it's dreary and drizzly and the sea is gray instead of blue and it's cold and damp, the sun is shining above all of that. The sun, which is you, is shining above all of that. So take a moment right now to just remind yourself that you are a star, you are a sun, you are a brilliant light that can never be extinguished. No matter how many broken relationships or addictions or violence or wars or whatever you've been through, you can never be broken. Now, it may seem like that's not the case. It may seem like you've been broken several times. But in truth, you've never been broken. It's not possible to break who you are. It's not possible to destroy who you are or turn it into something grotesque and ugly. It's not possible. So the sooner you realize that, the sooner you will realize today's idea that you are absolute perfection, and you're inhabiting a human form which seems imperfect. It gets blemishes. Maybe you have a pimple somewhere on your body, or you have a rash, or an ache, or a pain, or something feels weak, or whatever it is, numb, tingly, although tingly can be pleasurable. But these 50 trillion cells all working together, yeah, a few of them are dying, a few new ones are being born every minute. And some of them have bugs in the program, glitches in the program. So that's part of having one of these human embodiments, is that you're going to experience what seems to be imperfection. Yes, there is a possibility of perfecting the human body, getting through what is called physical ascension. And that is available, and it is being realized by more and more souls on earth. Still a very small number, but the number is increasing. Souls that have learned to perfect the human body. And you don't perfect it by worrying about what you're eating or forgetting to breathe from 1 to 7 on each inhale and then holding 1 to 7 and then going out 1 to 7. That's a 7 triangle breathing. Oh my God, I did 8 instead of 7. Maybe I'm not going to ascend. It's not like that. So it's not about, oh my God, there was a little bit of dairy in that food I just ate. Oh no, it's not like that. That's not imperfection. That's being flexible and adapting to different circumstances. I mean, you can have boundaries. This channel has a boundary where he never eats beef, pork, or lamb at all, period. And if there's even a possibility it's in his food, he won't eat it. Not because he's fanatical or, oh my God, it's the end of the world, but he just has boundaries. It's, I don't eat red meat. It's that simple, yeah. So that's what he says, and that's what he does. And you have your boundaries. Maybe you have a boundary that you're not going to allow your family members to violate your free will by yelling at you and calling you stupid and, oh, you're a mad person, you believe in all that, whatever. And maybe you're just going to walk away and say, no, I'm not going to sit here and take this form of abuse. See you later, alligator. So having boundaries is part of our topic for today, because how do you stay detached when you're around pain and suffering? You have to have boundaries. They need to be boundaries that that preserve the compassion. So you're still caring about your in-law that calls you a wacko. You still care about that person, but you're not going to sit there and take constant verbal abuse from the in-law that thinks you're a loser because you're following whatever path you're following. And they're constantly reminding you that you're a loser and that you should feel ashamed of yourself or whatever it is. So, you're not going to sit there and take that. You're going to send compassion at a distance. This is a big issue for, this channel sees thousands of clients. And one of the central topics is dealing with families that don't recognize who you are. Now, some of you are very fortunate. You have a family that's totally on board with where you are in your consciousness. That's a few of you, and that's great. Wonderful. Wonderful to be able to choose parents that are open and receptive to the ideas we're bringing forth. And so, congratulations. For the rest of you, which is the majority, of course, maybe your parents love you, but we're not sure how that translates. I love you, but let's see. Te amor, pero, or something like that in Spanish. So we're not sure what it is in Croatian, but everybody knows that but. You can hear the but coming before you even get to the word. I love you. There's an edge in the voice. It's like there's something coming after the parent says that to you. And, oh yeah, here it comes. So let's have fun with this. Let's chuckle about it. It's painful, but let's chuckle about it anyway, even though it's painful. I really wish my parents would accept the path I'm on and at least acknowledge that it's a valid path for me. Maybe it's not, doesn't work for them, that's fine, but it works for me. So, you know, part of you would love to have that acknowledgement. Oh, you found a path that really works for you. I'm happy for you, and I truly mean that. I truly am happy for you. That's what you'd probably like to hear, yeah. So, how do you deal with a situation like that and stay loving and compassionate? So these are the questions that we're going into, the channel and our group working together to bring you hopefully a little bit of more illumination. There's that luminaries illumination on this subject. And of course, parents that don't accept your spiritual path or your religious beliefs, whatever it is one of the areas. Another one is spouses, mostly husband and wife situations, where one is growing faster than the other one. That's a huge number of his clients that fall into that category. And oftentimes it's the woman growing faster than the man, but occasionally it's the other way around. There's a whole explanation for why there are more women in these events than men. It's not just that the men are working and the women have free time on their hands. That used to be considered the reason, but it doesn't really fly anymore since most women work also. It's partly because the pendulum shift from a patriarchal society to more of a matriarchal society. That over the last 50 years, there's been more of a movement towards the feminine. Whereas before that, the masculine was much more dominant, and still is in some societies on Earth, of course. But in many of the Western societies, there's been a movement towards a more feminine perspective, so that's also part of it. But getting back to our subject, you notice we do wander around a little bit. We pick up one of the thoughts in the channel's consciousness that's relevant to this discussion, and we kind of run with it, would be a way to say it metaphorically. And so the whole thing with husband and wife, and it could be a gay couple as well, but husband and wife, where one of them is growing faster than the other, and you outgrow a pair of shoes when you're a kid, you know, they get to be too small as your feet grow, and pretty soon they start hurting your feet. If you're 12 or 13 and you're wearing a small size, and pretty soon, I can't wear these shoes anymore, my feet are cramped. And that's oftentimes the feeling in marriage when one partner is growing faster than the other. You're outgrowing your partner. As cold and heartless as that may sound, it's not meant to be cold and heartless, but it's the truth. You've outgrown your partner. Your consciousness is more expanded than your partner's consciousness. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to divorce or break up or go your separate ways. Sometimes it does mean that, but it doesn't have to. This channel knows of many couples who have stayed together, who are in a happy marriage, and one of them is spending 2 or 3 days a week doing their spiritual program or practice, and the other one is not, but they're loving and supporting one another. And in a case like that, the partner that's on the spiritual path needs to have a spiritual support system of friends or colleagues or teachers or students, people they can relate to on that level, so they're not depending on their marriage partner, their spouse, for their spiritual well-being. And so, yes, it can work in many cases where you are able to stay in your marriage even if your partner is watching football every night while you're meditating. Okay, that's a not a judgment. What do you call that? A stereotype. you've all seen the stereotypes. The man is sitting on the couch with his beer watching the football, and the woman is, reading autobiography of a yogi in the next room or something. Oh, so yeah, that's so yeah, that's the stereotype, and it sometimes is an accurate stereotype. And so we're having fun with what's in his consciousness here. He's seen so many of these stories, and they're not easy. We're chuckling, but we're not making it to be super easy for you. And that's why you need a support system. And it can be, if you're a woman and your husband is the football watcher, you might have a woman's circle that meets once or twice a week, where you do yoga and meditation and spiritual practice together. And then you talk about your issues with your husbands. It could be something like that. But it's important to have that support system. This channel lives in an intentional community in Mexico, and there's about 40 people in the community, and then there's those who come and go from the community who just come to visit, and then they have obligations other places. So if you include the ones who come and go, it's probably about 100 souls. And he's been talking about intentional communities for many years. Several people started intentional communities in Romania when he was very popular in Romania many years ago. And they quickly discovered how difficult it is to maintain a spiritual community away from the city. Of course, if you're in the city and you just meet regularly, that's different. But these were people that wanted to live apart from the matrix, as you call it. The matrix definition is the beliefs and structure of society. That's the definition of the matrix. So very simple definition. So they wanted to be free of the matrix, so they went out into the interior of Romania where there's not very much population and bought some land, started gardens, started putting up houses, but they realized most of the souls missed the city life. They wanted to be able to walk half a block to the corner supermarket and buy something, and this was not possible in this setting. Things like that. And the biggest issue with intentional communities is ego. You tend to have two camps of people in many communities, the workaholics and the lazy people. Yes, there are people who've balanced those. They take time off, they rest, they relax, and they work hard. So you do have people that are in the balanced camp, but in so many cases you have people that do all the work and they could think of nothing better than to work. They're addicted to work. And then you have the lazy people who want these people to do everything for them. And so you don't have a balanced community in a case like that. This channel has a workshop on intentional communities he does every few years, and so we're not going to go further into that subject. Just to say that it's important to have some type of support system to help you with your compassionate detachment. If you're committed to staying with family, staying in your marriage, staying with people that you love dearly that are not moving as fast as you, then it's important to have this system of support from souls around you. So that's one of the how-tos to achieve compassionate detachment. Can you do it on your own? Yes. Is it difficult? Yes, most likely. Closing the door and meditating by yourself without any help, without a meditation group or a yoga class or a steady group or a satsang, a kirtan, or something like that. It's hard, but there are souls who are doing it. They're doing a solitary spiritual path, and in the next room is their husband or wife and kids, doing whatever they do every evening, which may be different, or it may be the same thing every night, same routine. So, yes, there are some souls who are able to do that without a support system, but it's generally not easy. In fact, it can be quite difficult, feeling all alone, like, oh, I'm in a family, but I'm not really in a family because I feel all alone. I have nobody to talk to about the experiences I'm having. And usually in the beginning of your soul path, your spiritual path, there are breakups that occur. And these are probably inevitable. They're probably ultimately a good thing. But at some point you realize I can't just keep going through partner after partner, trying to find someone I can stay with who understands me. And so you have to make a decision. How can I live in this world and not be of this world? And that especially goes for family relationships. That's why we're kind of laboring this point a little bit on family relationships, because that's probably the biggest area where this topic is relevant. So, we're tuning in to the energy of everyone here. And wow, you've got some good energy. This is a good group. It's not the biggest group we've worked with, and it's not the smallest, but it's the quality of consciousness here. Remember, this channel said yesterday, the quality of your consciousness determines your experience of reality. That's the first principle of metaphysics. The quality of your consciousness determines your experience of reality. Now, some of you say, well, my thoughts create my reality. Well, sort of. That's what we would call a partial truth. Ultimately, it's not a truth unless it's a total truth, so you could say that's not quite it. But it points in the right direction. Your thoughts are creative, absolutely. Do they create everything in your reality? Not quite. Maybe you did not think about the central banking system. Maybe that wasn't in your consciousness, and yet that seems to be part of your reality here on Earth. The central banks that seem to control the money and seem to control people's lives if they believe that that's the case. So that would be an example where your thought did not create your reality, unless you get to a place where all thoughts are yours because you're one with everyone and you're one with God. When you get to that point, then this becomes irrelevant, this idea of your thoughts create your reality, because you are the reality that you're creating when you get to that level of consciousness, God consciousness, whatever you want to call it. When you're merged completely with your higher self would be another way to say it. The channel mentioned you have 6 lower selves and 6 higher selves, which collectively are just called the higher self. Soul, oversoul, monad, and 3 God levels beyond that. That's your higher self. And you are the higher self. It's who you are. The lower 6 levels are subsets. They're bubbles contained within this higher self. So just as your fingers are contained on your hand, which is part of your arm, etc., you could say that the lower selves are like the fingers on the hand and the arm, which is the higher self. That's not the best analogy. Leaves on a tree, on an evergreen tree, where the leaves don't fall off. You could say the leaves are your individual sense of consciousness, and the tree is the whole of consciousness. So that's another metaphor, another analogy. So we're going to interlace metaphors and analogies throughout this presentation. And we are going to allow plenty of time for questions. So we're going to occasionally glance at the thing here, and we seem to be having an issue with the internet. So I think maybe the host device is not close by or something. Let's see if we can, I don't know if I should do this. Let's see if this works. We lost the signal. We can try a different device. Okay, that's... I think we're going to try a different device here. Apologize for the delay. This happens when we're outdoors trying to use internet. So we're going to go back to the free one, I think. We'll see if that works. One moment for while we pause for technical difficulties. Okay, so it's connected. Let's see if we can get back to our session here. We had signal dropped out. I'm trying to use the public one. But I don't know what happened to this session. I'm going to have to go all the way back there. Okay, I think we lost everybody. I don't know if they were on the way. Okay, let's see if it's going to work. We apologize for the delay. We're still trying to get the internet to work. See if I can get it to work now. I only have 2 bars. I think that's part of the problem. Okay, I don't know if you can hear me. I don't know why the pointer doesn't work very well out here either. Okay, let's see. Can you all hear me? Okay, I know the live audience here can hear me, but I don't know if everybody online can hear me. I apologize for that. I don't know how long we were off because I had my eyes closed, and so thank you all for staying with me and not giving up. We'll just do the best we can because we're outdoors, and so. Okay, we have one person still coming in. Combination of our weak signal and their weak signal. Now everybody's back. Again, I apologize for the problems with the signal. Hopefully it won't keep happening. So we're going to resume the founders. The founders were talking about family relationships where you're growing faster or evolving faster than your family members. That's a huge issue. It's probably one of the biggest issues that we deal with, this channel and the founders. We're kind of 50-50 right now, me and the founders. We're kind of about half and half at the moment. So I'm going to go bring them in a little bit more now, so everything seems to be stable online. Okay, we are here. We didn't leave. We were here all along. He left temporarily to deal with some technical issues, but we're still here. And we're looking at this issue, which he wanted to cover because it's so relevant to the topic, compassionate detachment, which is what to do when your family members are not evolving as fast as you are. And of course, it depends on the situation. Everyone's unique on planet Earth, unique situations. Even though you're one, you're unique. It sounds like a paradox. You're one, but you're unique. They're both true. So you have a unique family environment that no one else has, although you probably have a lot of similarities to other families. Maybe you have an in-law that's judgmental, and there's maybe half the people in the audience have an in-law that's judgmental, or maybe a third or a quarter. So you share some similarities. And that's why we're able to give some advice regarding how to handle a family that doesn't support your spiritual path. So let's go back to basics on this topic. The first step, the very first step, is to see God in everyone. Oh, why did you make the first step the hardest step? Darn. You know, there's a teaching on planet Earth called A Course in Miracles. Many of you have heard of it. The very first principle is the hardest one. There is no order of difficulty in miracles. So if you want to create €1 or €1,000,000, it's not more difficult to create €1,000,000 than it is to create €1, if you're at a miracle consciousness, that is. If you're not in miracle consciousness, oh yeah, it's a lot more difficult to create 1,000,000 than it is to create 1. So the first principle is to see God in every family member, including the judgmental in-law, including the always drunk uncle. Every time you have a family reunion, he's got a beer in his hand and he's slurring his speech. And it's like, oh God, I got to deal with my uncle again. I can't remember. It was just last week, I feel like we got together, but it was really last Christmas or last New Year's or whenever it was. Or whatever it is, you fill in the blank. You know, the one who thinks he's better than you because he's got a scientific mind and you're into a bunch of religious nonsense, which of course you're not into, but that's what he thinks you're into, because he equates spirituality with religion. And so if you are even suggesting that there's a higher power in the universe, oh, you're one of those religious fanatics. I grew out of that religious stuff years ago. Okay, there's a simple misunderstanding there. The person's confusing religion and spirituality. So pick your favorite family member that you have difficulty with and practice seeing God in that family member. So this is a practical workshop in case you haven't figured that out. So we're going to do practical things like pick the family member you have the biggest issue with. Maybe you have a sister you haven't talked to in 10 years. Maybe you and your father never speak. Maybe you have a child that never speaks with you. Oh, Mom, you're so outdated. You're so old-fashioned. You know, just let me live my life. You know, I don't want you in my life. I got my friends, and I have a good life, and I don't need you. Maybe that's your 25-year-old son or daughter that's saying that to you. So, most of you can relate to what we're talking about. So how do you see God in that person? What does it take to be able to see God in them? To not just mouth the words, oh yes, my 25-year-old daughter is a child of God, I know that. That's not enough, is it? So let's take some deep breaths. If you're not in this situation, you know someone who is. That's how common it is. Everyone here either is in this situation or knows someone who's in this situation. Has a family member that just doesn't accept them for who they are. And you're trying to see God in them while at the same time you're feeling hurt or angry or disappointed or rejected or guilty that you weren't a good enough mother to your child. Well, I guess I didn't raise my daughter correctly, or she'd be appreciating me more and calling me on weekends and not saying she's always too busy to talk to me. So I must have been a bad mother. I must have done a horrible job of raising her, or whatever it is. So go ahead and just tune in, take some deep breaths, tune into the person you have the hardest time seeing God in your family. And if you are fine with your family, then pick somebody outside your family that you have a hard time seeing God in. Maybe your president or your prime minister, maybe a celebrity that you can't stand that's always preaching to you, and maybe a doctor that's looking at, giving you a dirty look every time you come in for a checkup because you haven't gotten a sharp needle in your arm. Whatever it is. And go ahead and just breathe. Take some deep breaths. This little practical exercise here. Just take some deep breaths. See that person right in front of you. The judgmental in-law, the doctor who insists on giving you a medical procedure you don't want. Whatever it is, whoever it is, see them in front of you as they normally look. And just see if you can find something about that person that's divine. Maybe they love their own family. Maybe they get a call from someone that they really love. Okay, so maybe they should love everyone, you're saying. Oh, they don't seem to love me, but they love their friend or whatever. But take what little love you can see and magnify that. See if you can just blow it up a little bit and make it into a larger-than-life picture of who they are, just for a moment. We're not talking about going into denial and just putting on a plastic smiley face. We're talking about taking a chance to see them as a perfect child of God, just as deserving of God's love as you are. Simple exercise, very simple. But many of you tend to forget to do these simple exercises. Or you just blow it off and say, well, I don't want to talk to my uncle who's drunk every time we have a family reunion, and I don't want to deal with him, and, screw him. And that's so much easier to do that, right? For most of you, that would be so much easier. Just blow him off. I'll deal with him next holiday season. And up until then, I don't need to have anything to do with him. We're suggesting at least see if it's possible that he's a beautiful child of God just like you are. Not intellectually knowing that, but to feel it. Feeling it deeply in your being. See if you can do that. At the same time, you're going to stay detached from the story. Detached from the drama, detached from the matrix, detached from the stage play called life. Oh, that uncle gets drunk every weekend and beats his wife. Oh my God, that's so horrible. And it is horrible from a human perspective. So how can you stay detached from your uncle who beats the wife? Doesn't mean you approve of the behavior. Maybe you are in a position to do something about the behavior. Get in between him and his wife if necessary. That's fine if that's what you're guided to do, to get right in his face and say, no, you're not going to beat her, not while I'm here, not while we're having this family reunion. When you go back home, maybe we don't have much control over you, and if she consents to being beaten, when she has family that could take her in and shelter her, and if she wanted to get away from him, and therapists that are ready to help her out if she's willing to get therapy. But right now you're here in my house, and it's our family reunion. We're having a beautiful dinner. You're not going to lay a hand on her. So you get right in his face and say, no, this is unacceptable. But he's a child of God, and God loves him just as much as God loves you. Is it possible in that scenario to feel that? To feel God's love pouring through you to the uncle, pouring through others, pouring through the uncle himself? Is it possible to feel that? So just breathe and meditate on that scenario. Set your own scenario up. It may not be as dramatic as that one. We like to pick the dramatic scenarios because if it works on the dramatic ones, then it's going to work on the ones that are not so dramatic. So we pick ones that are difficult purposely. So go ahead and look at your own scenario. Where can I remain detached and yet compassionate? In this case, with the drunk uncle that beats his wife. So find your own situation. Remember to breathe and ask yourself that same question. How can I see this person as a beautiful, innocent child of God? Which doesn't mean you put up with bad behavior, doesn't mean there aren't consequences for bad behavior. But how can I see this as a beautiful child of God? If this person, we'll use the uncle as an example, if this person could see themselves as a beautiful child of God, their behavior would change. They would stop beating the wife, they would probably stop drinking. But underneath their bad behavior is the belief they are unworthy of God's love. On some level, if you go deep enough, it comes down to that. They believe on some level they are unworthy of God's love. It may not be obvious. There may be all these layers above that layer. But at the deeper layers, maybe they were abandoned as a child and they put that onto God and say, God abandoned me. God didn't take care of me. God allowed me to suffer all alone with nobody there to take care of me. And therefore, I hate God. How could you let this happen to me, God? So that might be the deeper layer that's causing the bad behavior. So we'd like to make this more of a discussion because these are tough topics. This is not the most popular workshop that we do. And we've done this workshop and not gone so deep, but you're a good group to go deep with. So we're just like the woman who gave the Yoga Nidra workshop the other morning. She went deep into the issues. She didn't put a plastic smiley face on her yoga and meditation. It was raw and deep, and sometimes that's necessary. But it's also necessary to know that God didn't stop loving you because your father beat you when you were little, or God didn't stop loving you because you were raped when you were 16, whatever it is. And that's where we're going with this, to that recognition that the truth is the truth. The sun is shining above the fog. No matter how dark and thick and wet the fog is, the sun is shining above the fog. So we're straddling two worlds, as you would call it. You have one foot in the world of pain, misery, and suffering, and you have one foot in the heavenly realms, where truly there is nothing but love. There's nothing but harmony, beauty, unity. So you've got one foot in each of those dimensions, each of those perceptions. So this is not an easy place to be. I'm here and I'm here at the same time. I'm living in a world where there's tremendous suffering, and I'm living in a world where there's tremendous beauty. It's easy to tune into the beautiful side when you're in a place like this. And so we're not suggesting for one moment that you negate the beauty that you're experiencing here. In fact, you can experience it more deeply. But we're also recognizing that you have one foot in this other dimension. You came here to help humanity, and that's going to happen. You are already helping humanity just by your presence, just by having one foot in the heavenly realms and bringing that energy over to the other foot that's in the world of suffering. That is making a difference. Your ability to be in both worlds is making a difference. Now, who you are belongs in this heavenly realm. That's who you are. But you've chosen to immerse partially in this world of suffering. So this is how you're helping the planet, by being a bridge for people that want to leave the world of suffering and experience the heavenly realms. You're building a bridge for those people to cross over. This is what your purpose is. It may be varying. Maybe you're a healer, maybe you're a therapist, maybe you're a dancer, maybe you're a yogi. Whatever form that takes can vary, of course. But the purpose remains the same, to build a bridge for people to cross over from the world of suffering into the heavenly realms. So that's a good place to open it up to questions. And I'm glad to see we're still connected online, and thank goodness we have a recording device here, so whatever you missed during the roughly 10 minutes I think that we were trying to get back online, it'll be on the recorder and you'll get a copy of that. So, questions or sharing. If you have an experience similar to what we just shared and you want to describe that, feel free to do that. Maybe we covered part of your issue, but part of it wasn't covered. And so maybe you want to go deeper into part of your issue. As long as it's relevant to everyone here, you know, we were talking about intensely personal things, but they were relevant to everyone here. So word your question in a way that's relevant. So you're not asking, you know, is my uncle's surgery going to go well 3 days from now? You're asking more, how do I deal with an uncle who drinks and beats his wife? That would be the relevant question, of course. So we have a handheld mic, and we can pass the mic around. Is it working? I think it's over here somewhere. It's wonderful being able to go in and out of the founders when we need to. So there's a hand up over here. So the first person can come down and get the mic, and then you can just pass it to the next person.
Thank you to telling us this. I have 2 sisters. Still can't stop crying. And I always tell them, sorry, you're just my sisters, because my mother just gave a birth and told me you are my sisters. But with Saul, you're not my sister. I have my sister I found, that's my good friend. But I feel sorry that they're not my sisters. Because, as you said, they are different, we are different level, but I'm not going to work on that. So thank you.
Thank you. Over here.
Thanks
Maybe you can meet each other halfway with the mic. Yeah, we may comment on what's being shared.
Okay, I will just support this subject because I have the same problem. I have a brother, and even going in meditation like this was very, very challenging for me. So with the support of this group and you and those beings that you are channeling, I was able to do that. Without support, I almost I just can't. I can't work on this because I feel my brother like a big threat to me. I feel it in all my cells. I feel it in all my organs. I feel always like he didn't never touch me, but I always feel like beaten from his energy. And it's very, very challenging for me. And I really want to work this out, not only for myself, but also for him. Is there anything what I can do for him?
Okay, I don't know if the people online heard the question or not, because I don't know how well it picks up from over there. Two people shared. The first woman shared about her sisters that are totally unlike her, and then the second person shared about her brother, who's very threatening, aggressive kind of person, and how to deal with these situations. And yeah. Yeah, so let's take a moment, and we're again about 50-50 founders and higher self of the channel. We're just going to invite the founders to come in a little bit more than they are already. They're looking at the big picture, and I'm looking at the, we'll call it the medium-sized picture, perhaps, on this issue. So we don't know how much love is getting in when we send love to family members that are not acknowledging who we are, that are stuck in their own dramas, or maybe are judgmental towards us, or ignore us, or don't like to talk to us, or whatever the situation may be, the brother who's threatening. We don't know as higher beings, and we don't know as human beings together just how much of that love is getting through. We can see clairvoyantly the auras of the beings that are being discussed here, the aggressive brother, the sisters who don't seem to care. We can see their auras, and we can telepath to some degree with them, as long as it doesn't violate their free will. But we can't determine how much of the love is going to get through to them that you send to them. Maybe it's a little bit, maybe it's a substantial amount. But you send it anyway. You love them anyway. That's unconditional love. You love them anyway. Very simple. So take a moment right now, because this is an issue that many of you have. Find someone in your family that fits the definition of the sisters and the aggressive brother, or some other issue that's similar, and just practice sending love to them. See yourself as a vessel for God's loving light. Think of Niagara Falls or Victoria Falls or some other big waterfall with a huge volume of water pouring over a cliff down into a valley below. But it's liquid golden light. Liquid golden light directly from the heart of God, and it's pouring through you, and it's pouring into the aggressive brother and the sisters who don't seem to care, and the other family members that you are all thinking about right now. It's pouring into them, washing away their karma, washing away their fear, washing away their guilt to the greatest extent possible without violating free will. So go ahead and feel that. We're going to add to his energy to help you feel that. So he's channeling us and we're channeling the Godhead to help with this healing of the family members that are not on the same wavelength or same frequency as you are. And again, this can be blood family, brothers, sisters, parents. It can be aunts, uncles, cousins. It can be in-laws. It can be your husband or wife's family. It can be your children. Maybe you have grandchildren. Maybe your children are married and the spouse has issues in their family. So it can be a large number of souls that are seemingly stuck in the world of suffering. Maybe they don't even realize they're stuck in the world of suffering. I'm doing just fine. I come over every night, watch my football game and drink my beer, and I'm just fine. I'm happy. Don't bother me. Okay. So you're not going to bother that person if that's their feeling. But you can still send them love. Sending love does not mean you're bothering someone. It doesn't mean you're violating someone's free will. Love knows where to go. It knows how to go. It knows what to go. It knows when there's a danger of violating free will, and it backs off at that point. It's intelligent. God's love is intelligent. It's closely related to the light of God. There's two different principles. The light of God is part of the energy of God, which is a constant in the universe. It's eternal and constant. The form changes, but the energy doesn't change. Love operates according to the law of increase. It increases the more it's given. So think of the universe expanding with love. So love is the law of expansion or the law of increase, and light is the law of constancy, represented by Vishnu in the Hindu traditions. So you have Brahma, the law of increase, expanding, and you have Vishnu, the law of constancy, eternity. And then you also have Shiva, the law of destroyer of illusions, the letting go of illusions, and they disappear into the truth. And that's the law of Shiva. So you have Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva representing these principles. Who else would like to share? The microphone is somewhere. It's right here. So we can talk more about the cosmic aspects, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. We can talk about Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Love, power, and wisdom are the archetypes. The love of the heart, the power of the solar plexus or dantian or chi, and the wisdom of the third eye. So these are the three primary centers, along with the throat chakra, which is self-expression. But love, power, and wisdom is the Trinity made easy to understand on earth. So we have these Trinity aspects. How does this relate to compassionate detachment? Well, you have the Holy Spirit energy, which is the dissolver of illusions. You have the Sun energy, which is the maintainer, the Vishnu, the constancy, the eternity. And you have the Father aspect, or the Brahman aspect, which is expansion and increase. So go ahead and take a moment to get a little more cosmic now that we've dived into family relationships. Now we're going to bring it back out and look more at the cosmic aspects. So the feminine is often associated with the Holy Spirit. And the feminine is magnetic. It holds energy, which can sometimes be difficult for the female to hold energy. Magnetic tends to hold energy. The masculine tends to be electric or more radiative, the Brahma aspect. And so it radiates love, it radiates energy, but it's not as attached. It's the detachment aspect. It's detached from the drama. The female is holding the drama and the male is detaching from the drama. And the compassion, the son or daughter, the balance of male and female, you can think of it as that, holds both of these in compassion, has compassion for the female, has compassion for the male. So this is another way to look at it with these archetypes. So love, power, and wisdom, if you want to think of it that way. The love we'll call the feminine part, the power we'll call the masculine part, and the wisdom we'll call the balanced part, represented by the son or daughter. So, continue to breathe. The mic is in his hand, and it's ready to be in someone else's hand. If you have any questions, sharing your stories, yes.
Hvala. Moje pitanje je vezano za životinje, za kućne ljubimce. Primijetim da mene dotakne, povrijedi kad vidim da se netko loše odnosi prema nekoj životinji, ali ne mogu udomiti sve. U principu, tko su ti naši kućni ljubimci, kakvu oni vezu imaju sa nama?
Although we got some of that telepathically, we'll translate for the benefit of the channel.
Just in case. Yeah, so the question is related to pets, basically. She says, I really love them all and I really feel bad when someone is treating them badly, but I just can't save them all. I can't adopt them all. So I would just like to understand who they are. Who are those pets who come to our lives?
Okay, this is an excellent question. And it's related to our topic because we can be compassionate for the suffering of animals and at the same time detached, realizing that animal spirits are greater than the animal bodies, just as human spirits are greater than human bodies. So let's tune in to both the spirits of the animals and the bodies of the animals. And in some ways, perhaps animals have a less sophisticated ego than human beings. Their intellect may be less sophisticated. Notice we didn't say it better or worse. We said more or less sophisticated. More complex, less complex. Nevertheless, the issues are the same. Perhaps the abuse is created by a human on the animal, although it can be from one animal to another. And in some cases, there's overpopulation of certain animals. And maybe they're competing for limited food or limited shelter in winter weather. So there can be a number of different issues that are somewhat similar to human issues. So you as human souls, your role is to, of course, radiate love to homeless dogs and cats and other creatures that are suffering, physically suffering perhaps, more than emotionally suffering, but maybe emotionally suffering as well. A dog that's mistreated has a lot of emotional trauma. Never mind, he's cooling his head off for a moment here, so we'll just stay with that till the hat is down here somewhere. There we go. Okay, there we go. Okay, so let's give a healing to the animals. So go ahead and visualize animals you know that could use a healing. Maybe you have a stray cat or a stray dog in your neighborhood, or maybe you know of a dog that's been mistreated. There was some place recently that, I'm not sure who he was talking to, but it was a neighborhood where they had an ordinance that dogs could not bark. And so what they would do is remove the vocal cords of the dogs so they couldn't bark. Now, some of us would move out of that neighborhood or run for office to change the ordinance or do something else besides cut the dog's vocal cords. But some human beings, that's how they respond to those kind of challenges. We're not judging it, we're just observing that the human dog owner's response was hurtful to the dog. That's all. We're not judging it. So let's give a healing to animals that are treated poorly for whatever reason, whether it's to please the homeowners association or to please a family member that can't stand the barking of the dog, whatever it is. And so we're doing homeless pets and abused pets that have a home but maybe would be better off without a home, depending on the situation. So let's see our dogs, cats, birds, gerbils, ferrets, snakes, whatever the creature is that has become a pet, and the homeless creatures that are not designed to be homeless, such as domestic dogs and cats, and those wild creatures who are suffering. Maybe it's a fish that's tangled in a plastic netting from a fishing boat, or a bird that's got oil on its feathers from an oil spill, or microplastics that are making the animals sick just like they make the humans sick. So whatever the cause of the suffering, let's go to the animals that are suffering, wild or domestic. And let's also include any plants that are suffering. Maybe they've got acid rain and it's destroying their chlorophyll. Plants feel things too. That's been proven in laboratories. So plants, animals, and nature spirits, spirits of the plants and animals that have feelings, even though they're in spirit. And any other life forms that are not normally considered that could be suffering. And let's send God's loving light to each animal, each dog, each cat, especially those who have been abused. Feel them as part of you. They are part of you, you are part of them. So your loving light is part of them. Their loving light is part of you. And the loving light belongs to all creatures in all dimensions. So just take another moment and imagine you're lifting all these animals up into the light, releasing them into the heart of God. So be it, and so it is. So we have time for another question or sharing, if there is one. So the mic is over here somewhere. Anyone else want to share? This is a quiet group. Well, it's a deep topic that hits home for so many. So go ahead. It's good to contemplate sometimes.
One question here. I'm thinking about one topic that connects to our today's topic. It is karma. Because, you know, karma is my dad who abused me or something like that, my brother or my mom, she doesn't love me. Who creates karma? You as the founders or some other entities who wants to control the human?
Yes, wonderful question. Our definition of karma is a little different than perhaps the traditional definition. Karma is unfinished soul lessons. and they could be unfinished for a variety of reasons. We used the example, he uses the example a lot, so we excuse ourselves here if you've heard this several times. The story of the king sitting up in the palace, eating fine foods every night while the peasants are starving outside the palace walls. Next lifetime, he comes back as a starving peasant. Is he being punished for his previous lifetime? No. It's about the soul wanting to experience both sides of the duality. Now, yes, there are consequences for bad behavior. That's the law of attraction. Instant karma. You walk into a tavern and start throwing punches, people are likely to punch back. That's instant karma, if you want to think of it as karma. But really, it's more about soul lessons. It's not so much about cause and effect. If the father feels guilty because he beat you when you were little, then the karma is in the unresolved guilt, the unresolved soul lesson. The soul lesson here is, first of all, the father has to forgive himself for beating you, and then he can accept your forgiveness and recognize that what he really wants to do is love you instead of beating you. So that's the change that we're looking for. But he has to let go of the guilt. And that means he believed he was guilty before he started beating you, or he wouldn't have beaten you. We're going to say that. Now, maybe some psychologists would say, well, how can you say that? Well, we're going to make an assumption here, which we don't do very often, but we'll make an assumption that the father was carrying guilt and projected that guilt onto the child and was beating the child as a form of projecting the guilt. Like, you're bad and wrong because you left your coat on the floor when you came in, or whatever it is, or you got a failing grade on your exam, so now you're going to get a beating. So the father feels guilty. Maybe he feels like he didn't do a good enough job raising the child, and that's why the child failed the exam or left the coat on the floor. And so it's a process, and so now that guilt is being projected onto the child in the form of a beating. You're bad, you're wrong, you're guilty. And deep inside, the father feels bad and wrong, maybe not just because he feels like he's not a good father, but maybe he had past life or early childhood, his father beat him for the same reason. In a past life, maybe he was abusing people. So it's a process. But the soul doesn't really judge. The soul is at level 7, which is the first non-dual level of creation. The first non-judgmental level of creation is the level of the soul. The soul has a unique ability to straddle both realities, the eternal reality and the more illusory levels of the lower worlds. So the soul has the ability to bridge the gap between duality and non-duality, even though the soul itself is in non-duality. So the soul says, I want to learn everything there is to learn about the worlds of duality. So I'm going to learn what it's like to be a rich person, exploiting the poor people and starving them. And I want to know what it's like to be a starving peasant that's being exploited by the rich people, working slave wages in a factory 12 hours a day with no breaks or whatever it is. So the soul just wants to have the full experience of duality. So as long as you feel incomplete with someone, then you have karma. Your favorite grandmother died and you didn't have a chance to say goodbye to her. There's a little bit of karma there. It's an unfinished soul lesson. Your soul desired to have completion with the grandmother before she passed. So maybe you'll come back in a future lifetime with the grandmother in your family so that you can complete that lesson you didn't get to complete. That's the true meaning of karma. Otherwise, you're dealing with cause and effect. You put out negativity, you'll get back negativity, which you could call instant karma if you wanted to. Okay, it is now just about 5 more minutes, and then we'll take a break. If there are no more questions, we'll take the... Yes, over here.
So I have a question in regarding to business. How you detach from strategies, from plans, from visions for something?
Well, first of all, you have to put your priorities in order. So having a successful business may be a high priority for you. And if that's the case, you will learn everything you need to learn about how to run a successful business, how to follow through and follow up with clients, how to deal with clients who don't pay you, or things like that. And it doesn't have to involve emotional attachment. The first principle in any business is to provide the highest and best possible service and products. That's the first principle of business. Do the absolute best you can to give the highest quality of product or service to your customers, whoever they are, or potential customers if you haven't started yet. So that's the first principle. But you're not attached, meaning that your happiness, your peace of mind does not depend on your business being successful. It may physically make your life more difficult if your business is not successful. You may have trouble paying your expenses, for example, and you may desire to live a life where you're not thinking about how you're going to meet your expenses, that it flows with a sense of ease and grace, the ability to meet your expenses and exceed your expenses. This channel's personal spirit guide, Leah, came up with a very simple sentence which completely describes the money game. And it is a game, of course. Do what you love to do in such a way that your income is consistently exceeding your expenses. That's all. That's the entire money game. Notice there's nothing there about the ego and about, oh, I'm better than you because I make $200,000 a year and you only make $100,000 a year. No, there's none of that nonsense. It's all just, the first part is the hard part, doing what you love to do. That's the hardest part of the equation. Second part is mathematics. You increase your income and lower your expenses until the income is higher than your expenses. That's a mathematical thing. Doing what you love to do and getting well paid for it is the hard part of the equation, because most of you are programmed to believe there's only certain ways you can make money. And yet, if you observe the Western world, there are people making money at the most amazingly ridiculous things imaginable. He used the example recently of the pet rock. You all remember the pet rock? It was a big thing in the 80s. And this guy was selling rocks for several dollars or euros per rock in a little box with a little instruction manual how to take care of your pet rock. So it was a cute little idea, and he made millions on selling rocks. So you can make money doing anything. There may be some things you have no desire to make money doing, like selling weapons, but the point being that if you love to sell rocks, oh, we've lost our internet audience again. Here, hopefully it's coming back. They're back. They're back. Oh, that was a short outage that time. I'm going to go ahead and put my chat window up here just in case anybody uses the chat window. And I happen to see the chat window. So back to the business. How to handle all the busyness of business without losing your center is also implied in the question. So again, it comes down to priorities. I was doing 8 clients a day at one point in my work, and I realized that I was not taking proper care of myself when I was doing 8 clients a day. And so I decided to start doing less clients. And you know, that means you make less money. But it was more important to me to take care of myself than to make more money. And so if you have the right setup, when I started my work, I was on a piece of property I owned. I had extremely low expenses. I wasn't paying any money to banks or anything like that. And so I wasn't thinking about money. I was only thinking about my service. So I didn't have thoughts like, well, I got to get 6 clients this week in order to pay my electric bill. No, those kind of thoughts were not in my consciousness. If you can set up your life, and it's not easy to do that for most of us, but if you can set up your life that way, that's great, because then you're not motivated by money, you're motivated by quality of service. So unfortunately, though, the reality is in most places, the cost of a house is very expensive, whether you're buying or renting. And the cost of electricity may be very expensive depending on what country you live in and where you live in that country. And so you're dealing with a day-to-day situation. Okay, I need to generate this much income to offset my expenses. And maybe it's a substantial amount, several thousand euros maybe. So, you know, that's something you'll have to stay calm and clear and centered and detached about. Oh, my well-being doesn't depend on getting 10,000 euros a month. My well-being depends on knowing that God's love is in charge of my life, and that includes my business. So I'm going to ask for help from spirit guides, from God directly, from people who come into my life who are willing to help me realize my business goals, whether it's somebody who markets and promotes my business, gets me out into the world, gets me noticed. And I'm a good example of that. Yes, I wrote books, and the books were a big reason why people got excited about what I was doing. But there were other reasons too, and I put out an intention that I was going to find the right people for marketing and promotion, because I really wasn't excited about marketing and promoting myself. And so, yeah, the right people showed up. And so, yes, it does work that way. And of course, you have to know that you're worth it. If you're trying to be a healer, but you don't think you're very good, then you're putting out this vibration of, I'm not a very good healer. Maybe if you feel kind enough to give me 20 euros for my session with you, then I will appreciate that. That's probably not where you want to be. On the other hand, you don't want to be greedy and charge 600 euros for a 30-minute reading. And you might get a few takers that are wealthy people, but you're cutting out most of the population. They can't receive what you have to offer because you're charging too much money for it. So there's a balance in business. You want to find out what the market rate is for what you do, if there is a market rate for what you do, and then I tend to go a little bit on the low side of the market rate. That's just what the guidance I received for what I do. But you may get different guidance. And you're worth more than any amount of money. Your presence is worth more than any amount of money. So it has nothing to do with self-worth. Unless you believe you're only worth 20 euros. You know, so let's take a break. Let's come back. We're going to start promptly at 10 minutes after the top of the hour. So that gives you 20 minutes, but don't think 20, think 15. If you think 15, you'll be back in 20. One more question. If it's a quick one, as people are getting up. An old soul simply means that you've had thousands of lifetimes on maybe hundreds of different planets, And my technical definition is anyone who's been an individual soul for more than 85 million years. That's my technical definition. Before that, if you're 60 to 85,000, then you're a mature soul. If you're 45 to 60,000, you're an experienced soul. And if you're 30 to 45, you're a young soul. And if you're under 30 million years old, you're a baby soul. That's the system that I use. It's just a random system. It doesn't mean much. Oh, most old souls have had thousands of lifetimes in other worlds. They may have only had a few lifetimes on Earth. So maybe they've only had 20 lifetimes here, or 30, or maybe they've had 100, you know. A starseed is someone who's had less than 1% of their lifetimes on Earth. So maybe you have a child who's only been here 10 times, but he has 2,000 lifetimes in other worlds. That's 0.5%. That's a starseed, according to my technical definition. So let's thank the founders. We're here. We are the founders. Good day. Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Turn on the recorder. Looks like the internet is working fine. I have creatures crawling on me here. Not sure what that was. It's an ant, I think. Okay, so we have the meditation on the 21st of September. The Compassionate Detachment Workshop. There's a word we haven't used yet. I don't know how we got through an hour and a half of me and the founders going in and out of each other without using the word forgiveness. Oh, forgiveness. We forgot to forgive. Well, I've been planning this meditation since yesterday when I asked my guidance, now which meditation should we do on Sunday? And they said, do a forgiveness meditation. So again, if you're familiar with A Course in Miracles, that's probably the best definition of forgiveness. It's not the traditional definition. I forgive you, you lousy, slimy, no good, miserable excuse for a human being. That's not forgiveness. And forgiveness is not pardon. Pardon is different. You loan somebody money and they don't pay you back. And you say, you know what? Don't worry about it. Don't pay me back. It's okay. But deep inside, it's like, that irresponsible person. That's not forgiveness. That's pardon. So forgiveness is recognizing the child of God in every person. Even if they've done things which have negative consequences and maybe you don't approve of the behavior, but you still forgive them. Like Jesus on the cross saying, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. This is horrendous, you know, up there with nails in your hands in the hot sun, and to recognize they're killing an image of fear. That's what they're killing, an image of fear. And they don't know what they're doing. They don't realize they can't kill the spirit. They don't realize that the spirit is what they really want, even though they don't know it. So that recognition that God is eternal, the body, you may decide to lay it aside at some point, or it may have an unfortunate end if you desire that soul experience on some level and you attract that experience to you. But the spirit is eternal, and the spirit is incapable of sin. Actually, the body is incapable of sin, but it's certainly capable of making mistakes. There's no such thing as sin. Well, in archery, it's called missing the mark. So if you aren't on target with something, you could say you sinned, but that's kind of a silly definition of sin. So none of us have ever sinned, even if we killed people in a war or whatever. We didn't really sin. We committed a behavior that may have negative consequences, but we didn't sin. And God's not punishing us. If you jump off a tall building and break your body, do you blame God and say, you know, it's all your fault, God, you made me break my body? No. There's a law called gravity in these lower worlds. And there are consequences if you don't obey the law of gravity, unless you've evolved to the point where you can fly and teleport and levitate and all that, in which case this wouldn't even be an issue for you anyway. But it's like that's the idea of sin and guilt and God punishing us. Ignorance of natural laws is the reason we suffer, not because God hates us and wants us to suffer. So this is, I think we all know that in this group, but maybe some of our family and friends are still stuck on the idea that karma is a punishment for something we did in a past life. Oh, you let people starve outside your palace walls. God's punishing you in this lifetime by making you poor, and you're going to have to suffer in this lifetime for what you did in that previous life. That's an elaborate form of guilt that some Eastern religions fall into. Western religions are a little more direct. If you make a mistake, you're going to go to a fiery pit down there somewhere if you commit sins and don't ask Jesus to forgive your sins. So, let's meditate. So, let's get comfortable and let's take some deep breaths. Full deep inhales, relaxed exhales. Continue breathing fully, freely, and deeply throughout the meditation. At all times during this meditation, you are in control. You can accept or reject anything I say. And you will be entering a theta brainwave state, a highly powerful and creative state. And you'll be able to remain awake and aware while in this theta state, sensitive to your thoughts and feelings, and able to respond to anything that requires your attention. You'll be able to fully recall what you experience in this meditation, and you will only use the information that is for your benefit and the benefit of others. So continue to breathe and relax, letting go of stress and tension, just letting go of your worries about yesterday or tomorrow, bringing your awareness fully present into this moment. So let's state an intention for this meditation. Our intention is that we will erase karma, if we have unresolved karma, and we're going to erase it through forgiveness. Forgiveness is the fastest way to erase karma. It's really technically the only way to release karma, but it may look like there are other ways. So we're going to release karma, any karma that we have towards anyone that we feel something other than unconditional love toward. In a moment, we're going to get to that part of the meditation where we select people to forgive. But for now, imagine yourself going down a stairway. With each descending step, feel yourself going deeper and deeper into meditation. Going down, going deeper. Staying present in your body. Letting go of stress and tension. Staying awake. You're going to stay awake. Breathe a little bit more rapidly if you find yourself starting to fall asleep. Bringing yourself fully present. And now you're reaching the bottom of the stairway, and in front of you is a tunnel, And at the end of the tunnel is light. There's also a doorway that leads into the light. If you don't like tunnels, you can choose the doorway instead. So begin walking into the light. You're getting closer to the light, and now you are emerging into the light, and you find yourself in your favorite place in nature. Now maybe this is your new favorite place, so you could visualize yourself sitting on the beach here if you want, or walking through the forest. Maybe it's a mountain meadow with beautiful wildflowers, maybe a little stream, flowing stream, or maybe the pounding surf of the open sea. Wherever it is, just take in the sights, the sounds, and the smells of this beautiful place. Really engage your senses. This is a beautiful, peaceful place you can go anytime you want to get away from the cares and concerns of the world. It's a place where you feel completely safe, completely at peace, and completely free. So take a moment to walk around in your favorite place. And now notice a tall, radiant being of light walking toward you. This is your all-wise, all-loving, all-knowing higher self. Do not worry about how well you can visualize your higher self. Just know that this beautiful being of light is walking up to you and is now standing in front of you. Imagine you can gaze into the depths of wisdom in this beautiful being's eyes. Your higher self knows everything about you, knows exactly what you need for the next step on your soul path, and has the answers to any questions that may arise. And you can ask your higher self questions at any time and receive clear and accurate answers. So go ahead and give your higher self a big hug, feeling all the love, power, and wisdom pouring into your meditating body. Now, directly behind your higher self, there is a spaceship, and there are steps leading up to an open door. Your higher self motions for you to come aboard the spaceship. And as you're walking up the steps and into the room, you find a large circular room with a comfortable chair in the middle. Go ahead and sit down in the comfortable chair. Your higher self is going to the control panel. So we're going to travel to people in our lives that we need to forgive. You might say, well, I don't have anybody I need to forgive. So you may end up going to past lives and working on people you've forgiven already and just want to make 100% sure that you have forgiven everyone in this life and everyone in your past lives. Just making sure, that's all. What do we say in the West? Crossing your T's and dotting your I's is what we would say. Making sure you've truly forgiven everyone. And some of you may have more than one person left to forgive. Well, I can do great with these ones, but this one, oh my God, I just don't know if I'm ever going to be able to forgive this one. So that's the one you're going to work on. In fact, you can work on up to 3 people in this exercise. So we're going to do what's called turning on 3D holographic projectors. So it's like you're peering into episodes of your life as they are unfolding. And they are unfolding right now because all time is now. So in the giant tapestry of time and space, everything that's ever happened in your past is happening now. And you can go there and observe what's happening, and you can give a healing to what's happening. You can also go to people in the present. It's called timeline healing when you go into the past. It's called mental projection or remote viewing when you stay in the present and do it. So you're going to do both. You're going to kind of stay in the present and do mental projection or remote viewing, and you're going to go into the past, which is timeline healing. So go ahead and start with mental projection. And we're going to make it easy. We're going to bring the person to you. You don't have to go to them. To make it even easier, they won't even realize that they have come to you, that you've brought them to you. So they're still, unless it's somebody you prearranged this exercise with, they're blissfully unaware that a part of them has come to you, so you can give a healing to your relationship. So, in the first projector, we're going to take the person you're the least likely to have fully forgiven. Maybe you already know who that is. They've already popped into your mind. This is the one you have the hardest time forgiving. It's like every time they come around, I feel a pit in my stomach, and I get all nervous and uptight, and I start feeling angry the minute they open their mouth. That's the one to start with. If you don't have one like that, then you're going to have to kind of search a little bit and say, who do I feel something other than unconditional love for? So start with family, whether it's your blood family or your marriage family or ex-marriage family. Start with people you've known personally. And if you don't have any in that category, then you could go to your favorite politician or priest or doctor or educator or media personality or actor, actress, or someone that you feel like fingernails on a chalkboard every time you see that person. Like, oh, I can't stand this person. Get this person away from me. So pick that one if you don't have any family and friends to work on. And you can pick up to 3 people for this exercise. And you're going to see them standing in front of you in the 3D holographic projectors. And see them as you would typically see them. So if it's someone you visit regularly, see them as they typically look, maybe wearing their favorite dress or business suit or whatever they're wearing. And if you can do this on someone who's passed away, and if they've passed away, then remember them as they looked before they got sick or had an accident, or pick the time in their life when they were awake when you had the most negative feelings for them. So you can pick someone who's passed out of your life but is still on the earth. You can pick somebody that you interact with every day. So the only requirement is that it's somebody that brings up feelings other than unconditional love, including sadness. Maybe you miss the person and you feel sad that they're gone, but that means you haven't totally forgiven them for leaving because you feel sad. And that's okay. It may take a while to stop feeling sad, but you're going to forgive them anyway for leaving, whether they left intentionally or unintentionally. Doesn't matter. The fact is, you feel sad, they're gone, or you feel sad and they're still here. Either way, you're going to forgive them. So you've selected the 3 people you're going to work on. Maybe one of them you think you're 100%, but you're just not sure. So go ahead and include that one. And go ahead and look in their eyes. Make eye contact. Now for this exercise, they cannot talk back. They cannot argue or get defensive or make excuses for themselves as to why they behaved the way they did, or try to deflect away from the issue, and they cannot ignore you or walk away. They are simply receiving what you have to say to them. Very simple. So take some deep breaths and just become aware of any feelings that are coming up as you visualize these people right in front of you at arm's length, right in front of you, all 3 of them, or less if there are less. But at least one. Pick at least one, even if you don't think there's anybody to forgive. Still pick at least one. And there they are, and you're looking them in the eyes. And if there's anything you haven't said to them, imagine you're saying it now. For example, if your father's in front of you, you might say, Dad, I feel angry about what happened when I was 6 years old. Or Mom, I feel sad about what happened when I was 10. Those are examples. So to a past relationship, I feel hurt about the way our relationship ended. Those are examples. So go ahead and pick your own things you've withheld saying to these people. Oh, it's not spiritual to say this, or oh, I'm afraid of their anger. If I say this, they're going to get angry. Whatever the reason is for withholding doesn't matter. You are releasing, you are letting go. Letting go, letting go. And so now as you're releasing everything that hasn't been said, imagine a golden light coming down from the heavens and filling their bodies from head to toe until all three, if there's three, or all one or two, are filled with God's loving light. Every cell, every molecule, every atom, every subatomic particle of their being filled with God's loving light. And go ahead and see another column filling you from head to toe. All of your cells, atoms, molecules, subatomic particles, filled with God's loving light. Now imagine you're reaching down underneath them and lifting them up into the heavens, releasing them up into the heart of God, and watch them floating up in these columns of golden light. And as they're floating up, you're saying to them over and over, I forgive and release you completely now. You are free to go to the light. I forgive and release you completely now. You are free to go to the light. And now turn to yourself. Feel yourself getting lighter and lighter until you're lifting off the earth in this column of golden light, ascending up. And as you're ascending up, you're saying over and over, I forgive and release myself completely now. I am free to go to the light. I forgive and release myself completely now. I am free to go to the light. Now you and the people you forgave are resting in God's loving arms with no cares, no worries, just pure divine love pouring into you, washing away the last of the karma. And just to make sure that you are completing your karma with these people, we're going to imagine a karmic contract. It looks like a legal agreement floating in the ethers. It has your name and each of these people's names on it. It has a judge's signature, today's date, and a seal. And across the front of the contract, in big red letters, it says, paid in full. The only requirement is complete and total forgiveness. You forgive them and you forgive yourself. And for some of you, forgiving yourself is the hardest part. Oh yeah, I'm pretty good about forgiving others, but boy am I hard on myself. Ooh-wee. So if that's you, then go ahead and linger a little bit on yourself, forgiving yourself. For the times you yelled at your children, for the times you worried too much, for the time you broke up with someone out of fear, whatever it is that you did, you're forgiving yourself totally and completely for everything you've done, killed somebody in a past life, whatever it is. And just take some more deep breaths. Let's make sure that we finish the forgiveness. We're not going to leave any cracks or crevices undone. We're going to take our time with this. We're going to make sure you're 100%, not 99%, 100%. So go ahead now and think about the 3 people you just forgave and notice what you feel. If you still feel a hook in your stomach or a in the heart or a tightness in the throat, you're not finished. You may need to repeat this exercise a few times until you start to feel not only forgiveness, but gratitude. I am so grateful this person came into my life. I learned so much from this relationship. And you really mean it. You really feel it. Then you've done it. You've forgiven them. You're absolutely grateful for all the lessons, all the quarrels, all the arguments, all the fights, all the conflicts, all the rejections, all the judgment, all the criticism. Everything is finished. You're done. You're finished. It is done. It is done. It is done. Go ahead and declare it silently to yourself as you're breathing. It is done. It is done. It is done. I am now finishing my soul lessons with this person. I am complete. And just say that to yourself silently. I am complete. And be careful. Notice if it really feels complete. And if it doesn't, you can repeat this exercise. It'll be on the recording. You'll be able to remember it. It's a simple process. And now we're going to return to earth. You can either leave the people you forgave up there resting in God's loving arms, and they can return on their own, or you can gently return them. It's either way works. And you're coming back to earth now. And now go ahead and look at the 3 people or 1 or 2 that you just forgave, and notice if there's been any change in the way they look in these projectors. Do they look lighter than before? Do you look lighter than before? Do they feel lighter? Do you feel lighter? And just notice. And just take another minute to center yourself after that exercise. And now we're ready to switch off the projectors. And you're going to thank your higher self for a wonderful experience. Now, we have a little bit of time to introduce you to timeline healing. So this is only an introduction. It's like a little taste of timeline healing. You can get more involved in it by attending a training in various parts of the world in the future if you want to. But for now, we're just going to go ahead and go back to a time in the past when you had a problem with someone, a fight, a quarrel, an argument. Some words you later regretted saying, oh, well, why did I open my big mouth and say that? Why didn't I just swallow my pride and not say what I said to that person? So any regrets that you or remorse that you might have felt about something you did in the past, we're going to go ahead and go back to that fight, that quarrel, that argument, that disagreement, that conflict, that hurt, that rejection, that judgment, whatever it was. Go ahead and just pick one instance now. Yeah, you've probably already picked it, so go ahead and pick that one. Do that one even if your mind starts objecting and saying, wait a minute, I don't need to do that one. Yeah, it came to your mind, you need to do that one. So go ahead. And go ahead and recreate the situation. Technically, what we're doing is going into a time machine, and we're going back in time to the very beginning of that argument or fight or quarrel or whatever it was. To when you first started feeling the anger welling up inside you, or the fear or the sadness or whatever emotion it was, guilt and shame. So go ahead and start with the beginning of the negative episode. And we're going to pour God's loving light into the self that you were during that negative episode of your life. And go ahead, if there's one or more people involved that triggered the feelings, go ahead and send God's loving light to those souls as well. And just continue to pour God's loving light into you and the other souls involved in this conflict, in this situation. And now imagine you're reaching down underneath them and lifting them up into the heavens, releasing them into the heart of God, forgiving them as you release them. And now we're going to come back from that experience. And once again, we're going to declare, it is done, it is done, it is done. Okay. And again, go ahead and think about that person now and notice if anything else has changed about that person. Do you feel lighter than before? And just observe. And once again, thank your higher self. And we're going to switch off the projectors. We're going to return from the spaceship, walking back into your favorite place in nature. Once again, noticing the sights, the sounds, and the smells of this beautiful place. And up ahead is the tunnel or doorway where you came in. So now you're walking back through the tunnel or doorway until you come to the flight of stairs that leads to a normal waking state. And now you're climbing the stairs and slowly coming out of meditation, feeling revitalized and refreshed, having only positive experiences as a result of this meditation, able to fully recall everything you experienced, using only the information that's for your benefit and the benefit of others. Coming all the way forward into your body, wiggling your fingers and toes, opening your eyes when you're ready. And we're finished with the meditation. So there's a mystery as to where the cordless microphone went. Maybe one of you walked away with it and didn't realize. So, do you know where it is? All right. So we haven't heard from any of the online people here. If any of you feel urged to share, I'll repeat your sharing so everybody can hear you. And if it's in Croatian, then we'll need to have a translator. So if anyone wants to, we have the mic here, which I could actually put on the screen, but I don't know if that's going to work. So, anyone in our live studio audience ready to claim your grand prize? Come on down, The Price is Right. I don't know if you have that game show in Europe. I haven't watched television in probably 20 years, so I don't even know if that show's on anymore. So,
thank you very much, Sal. I just want to share that I saw my sister, my brother, and my ex. My ex and my sister, they were laughing at the end, but my brother not. So I think I have to do that one time more. Because my brother and I was little and I don't know what happened. And he don't like me.
yeah, and again, he doesn't have to forgive you for you to be free of the karma. So this is really for you. And he might frown every time you send him forgiveness. He might.
I don't know, because I was 2 years old and my dad and my mom gave me to my father's brother and his wife. And after that, I came to my mother's home, biology, brothers and sisters. All time he don't love me.
Yeah. So just be with that and just keep sending him love. This is where the compassionate detachment comes back into the picture.
Okay.
When you are compassionately detached, it's easy to forgive. So there's another way of measuring your level of compassionate detachment. Can I forgive this person for calling me stupid? Can I forgive this person for not paying me back the loan that I made to him? Thank you.
Thank you.
So, who'd like to share? We still have a few minutes till we take our lunch break. Okay. Okay, so we have an online person we're going to go to, and then we'll go to you. So I will repeat your sharing. It's Miljana, right? Wonderful. And if you have been through timeline healing, it adds an extra dimension to this work. So if you're interested in finding out about future trainings, talk to me afterwards briefly, because we're already halfway into the lunch hour, and some of you want to get some lunch before you start your afternoon swimming all the way across to Poshman or whatever you're going to do after lunch. So. Yes, we have.
Yeah, it's just a thought. So all good. So you see God's love in someone, and you can be forgiving. But still, there is, if you live together, you have to set boundaries, right?
Right.
Yeah, and there sometimes I see still it's difficult in general. I think some more for women than for men to set these boundaries. And I was just wondering if you could give any or share any advice on that, or your thoughts, or...
Yeah, so I think everybody heard you, but in case the people online didn't, the question is about setting boundaries, especially people you live with. If there's any additional insights that we could bring forth regarding this process of setting boundaries and keeping boundaries, especially for women. Even though I said that the pendulum is swinging to a more feminine society, there's still a lot of the traditional male energies that say the man is the aggressor and he runs the household, sometimes with an iron fist, and that his feelings are not important, that it's results, 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 which is fine, except there's more to life than results. Even though results are important, they're not all there is to life. Feelings are important too. So this would be a case where nonviolent communication needs to be practiced. It's hard if your partner's not willing to practice it, but it's still easier if one of you is practicing it. And one of the simple exercises in nonviolent communication is simply stating your feelings and then stating a fact. I feel hurt and upset because you promised to call me if you were going to work late, and you didn't call me. That's effective communication. Now, what would start a fight would be something like, you don't care about me, you never call me. That's fighting words. It's, first of all, it's not true, and it's a judgment. Maybe he really does care about you, and his battery went dead on his phone, which he certainly could have gotten it recharged and called you. That's not an excuse, but maybe that's what happened. And maybe he does care about you, and darn it, I let my phone run down, and I forgot to call my partner and tell her I'd be working late, you know. So that's an example of simple nonviolent communication. Part of it is about expressing your needs and desires in healthy ways, where you're not like a toddler demanding attention. You better give me what I want or I'm going to throw a tantrum. No, obviously not like that. But expressing your needs clearly and accurately. I have a need to be listened to when I talk and not constantly interrupted when I'm talking. It makes me feel like you don't care about me if you're constantly interrupting me when I talk. And of course, don't say that unless the person really is constantly interrupting you. You know, so stay with the facts. But it's stay with the feelings. I feel is how you start the sentence. So these are basic communication skills. Most of you are already familiar with them, but they're worth reviewing occasionally. Sometimes you do have to say goodbye to a partner. You know, you're moving ahead like this on your soul path, and your partner's moving like this. And you're getting further and further apart. You can't even have a conversation anymore because you're so far different in vibration. Your kids are grown, let's hope, and you have your own income, and you don't really need each other physically anymore. And you're like night and day. You're like two ships passing in the night. Then it is time to take action, and one of you is going to move out if you're living together, and you do it with forgiveness. You say, I forgive you, let's stay friends. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't work, but that's your intention, is to have good feelings for that person when you're saying goodbye to them. And I'm making it sound simple. Well, we all know it's not always that simple. So thank you for the sharing. And I have to keep track of the time here. We have time for maybe one or two more sharings. I don't see any hands going up. So then let's talk about what the next step is for compassionate detachment. One of the steps is like you're steering your ship, and you are constantly making little course corrections. If you find yourself, I don't give an aerial copulation about life anymore. There's another word for that, of course. I don't care anymore about, I'm just, I'm going to still be here physically, but I'm checked out. What's that song say? You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. So, that's going too far in the detachment direction. I don't give what I just said before about the suffering in the world. That's hardening your heart. That's like closing down your emotional body. And there are consequences for that. You probably will end up getting sick or getting depressed or having chronic fatigue, or, there's going to be some consequence to shutting down your heart. And the other extreme, drama king or drama queen. Oh my God, it's so bad. You have a friend like that, a drama queen or a drama king, and the first 15 minutes, all the person can do is lament how awful everything is in their life. And then this happened, and then this happened, and you wouldn't believe it, this happened. And they just go on and on and on, emoting without any results, without any resolution, just constant emotion. Drama king or drama queen. That is going too far in the other direction. They are hopelessly attached. They are not being compassionate. They are attached. Compassion would be having enough compassion to acknowledge that they're driving everyone out of their life with their constant drama. Nobody wants to sit there on the phone for an hour listening to poor me day after day after day with no resolution. And every time you give them advice, it's like talking to a wall. It doesn't get through to them. And the next day, it's as if you hadn't even given them the advice. So that's where they're too attached rather than too detached. So, and there won't be any love and compassion in the drama king and drama queen because everything's about them. And how can I care about children in Gaza when this happened and then this happened and this happened to me? You know, it's like there's no compassion. So, course corrections. You start to get really bummed out about the children in Gaza to the point where it's affecting your ability to interact with people, to do your work. Then you're too attached. And, you know what? I feel dull. I don't feel vital. I don't feel alive. You're too detached. So you may have to make course corrections. So that's, I think, something to look for as you go forth from this workshop is, when do I need to course correct? How do I need to course correct? Do I need to call up somebody I haven't talked to in a long time and open up communication again? Maybe I've been too detached. Maybe it's time to reach out. Or, hey, maybe it's time to step back. Maybe I'm too involved in this situation. I can't see it objectively. I'm too caught up in it. Time to detach. So, most of us are probably getting hungry about now. And it is middle of the lunch 2-hour period. So my personal sessions are filled, but you can arrange to get an online session. You can either, well, there won't be a time really to talk to me afterwards now, but you can get in touch with Igor, who will get in touch with my business manager, who will book you an online session. So if you need a translator, you'll have time to arrange all of that. You don't have to wait more than, well, let's see, probably a month, maybe 2 months at most to get a session. It varies. Sometimes you can get in right away if somebody cancels, you know. So it's not like you have to wait a year to get a session or anything like that. So thank you all for coming, and look forward to seeing you for the cacao ceremony tonight, and maybe there'll be some dancing also. I thought it was going to be dancing last night, but I looked at my schedule again, and everything was accurate the way it was in the schedule. I think maybe sometimes you have to turn the schedule in different ways to see what's there. So tonight it is a cacao ceremony followed by a DJ. I'm almost positive. Yeah. So last chance to dance your feet on as opposed to dancing them off. You don't want to do that. Can't walk the next day. So, namaste.